Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC live here on ESPN Plus. A lot to talk about today, hence a full house in the studio. Craig's here, Stevie's here, Ali as well. Later on, Mark Ogden joining us as Manchester United are back, baby, as they beat Crystal Palace to advance to the next round of the Carabao Cup. Plus, we're looking ahead to Chelsea against Brighton with James Ollie, but we kick things off with a game that has just finished in La Liga. Mallorca taking on Barcelona. 2-2 it finishes between them and Mallorca. Let's just remind you what that means then for the league table. Real Madrid in action tomorrow against Las Palmas. Girona in action as well. A win for Girona would put them top of the table. For Real Madrid, a victory for them at home at the Santiago Bernabeu put them 1 point clear of Barcelona. For more on this, let's welcome in Alex Kirkland, joins us from Spain. But Ali, let's start with you. 2-2, is that fair? Barca seem to have lots of chances.
Yeah, but Barcelona did not do the very basic things that you have to do when you go away to Mallorca. And that is, don't give them any sort of reason to hope, any sort of reason to believe. And they did. Ter Stegen, 7 minutes in, just gives them a goal. Essentially says, all right, here you go, guys, let's make this a game. And now it's not only the players that are believing, it's not only the club that believes, it's also the fans, it's the stadium. They get into it. Now they think, okay, we're part of this game. You grow back into the game. Now you control the match if you're Barcelona as it settles down. You tie the game 1-1. You're creating opportunities. Momentum is with you, and what do? Another mistake. And Stevie was just mentioning, it is basic as it can be. It's just a long ball over the top. Somebody wins ahead of the two center backs that, by the way, you would think that Inigo Martinez and Ronald Araujo would thrive with physicality, which is indeed what Vedat Muriqi and Abdon Prats bring. Oh, no. They were getting outfought by both Muriqi and Abdon Prats. And Abdon Prats gets to the ball first. Ter Stegen, once again, daydreaming. I don't know what he was doing. He doesn't come out. And now you're back in a fight. Give credit, I suppose, to Barcelona in that there is a reaction in the second half. The young guys come off the bench and made a difference. Once again, Lamine Yamal making a difference. Fermin is making a difference. You look around that team, and guys that should be making a difference, guys that should be having an impact, are not. The young guys coming off the bench.
Like who should be making an impact? Who isn't?
Gundogan, for example. A guy that has come in and because of what we have seen from him in the past from Manchester City, you would think that this would be a natural transition for him. It hasn't happened. It hasn't been a natural transition. And they're going to need him because now De Jong is injured. Pedri's still injured. Who knows when he's coming back? Oriol Romeo was awful today. And so you look at the midfielders and say, well, are we going to depend on Fermin Lopez? Is this what happening from Barcelona's perspective? Gundogan has to be better. He wasn't. Joao Felix wasn't nearly as active today. Alejandro Valde, you couldn't find them. Ronald Araujo, Inigo Martinez, I already highlighted them. Cancelo was not good on the ball. I mean, I can go on and on if you want me to. But in the end, I think to answer your initial question, I took the cynic route to get there, but I'll get there eventually. 2-2. I think it's a fair result given what was the first half and what was the second half in this match.
Did Xavi get his tactics wrong, Alex?
I think Barca have got no one but themselves to blame, to be honest, because it's not a good combination, giving up goals like Barca gave up tonight at one end and not taking chances at the other. In terms of the tactics, I don't know. I think you look at that Barca starting 11 and you'd say, yeah, that's a team that should be getting a result away at Mallorca. I think just the key players didn't deliver. You don't expect Marc-Andre Ter Stegen to make a mistake like he did for that first goal. You don't expect defenders, like Alex says, of the calibre and the physicality of Ronald Araujo, arguably the best defender in La Liga last season, to struggle, and those alongside him, Koundé when he came on later on as well, Inigo Martinez before that, to struggle with Mallorca's physicality in attack. I just think you've got players underperforming and making mistakes in key moments. The only thing you would say, it's very early days, but the way League is shaping up so far this season, it's not like in the Premier League where any team that isn't Manchester City drops points and it feels like it's a disaster, right? Because City is so just inevitable. La Liga right now, it looks like, let's see if it develops, but you've got Madrid dropping points, you've got Barca dropping points, you've got Girona up there. Let's see what happens with Atleti. It looks like there isn't going to be a team that's just going to be flattening all the opposition. You're going to have teams, these big teams, dropping points. Potentially, it's going to carry on like that, and it will make for a good title race. But a lot of ups and downs along the way.
Well, you got a dynamic change in the not just in the back line, but in the midfield.
Yep.
You got a back line last year at times where Koundé was playing right back. Sometimes Araujo played there in the big game against Vinicius, did well. But they're all rock-solid defenders. Now you're changing the balance. You're bringing João Cancelo in, who's a magnificent footballer, but isn't the best defender. I'm not blaming him for any of this. But then you've got Araujo coming back, and it's sort of chopping and changing. But then you take the dynamic of the middle of the park out ahead of them, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of uncertainty because there's no Busquets anymore. It's Romeo and Gundogan. Those are two new players. Those are two new players to put in who might be gallivanting off doing different things, and all of a sudden you're a bit more exposed. Sergio Busquets wasn't, certainly towards the end, was nowhere near the most mobile of holding midfielder, but he was clever.
Right.
He was clever. He could communicate, he could see things, he could talk. That's not in the side anymore either. And when you add those other ingredients in, it's just not quite, or it's certainly not quite as solid as it was last year.
Do you agree with Alex in the fact that we're going to see these big boys dropping points quite a bit this season?
Well, we already have. And we thought that Real Madrid were going to be the ones that would potentially be most consistent, at least given their start of the season. And then you see them trying to defend against Atletico Madrid, and that was just horrendous. Now, people are going to focus on this sort of game for Barcelona and say, well, they dropped points today. They should have dropped points against Celta de Vigo over the weekend. They got fortunate then. For 80 minutes, Celta de Vigo had them under control. And one of the things that Lewandowski said after the match is, this is the sort of game that is helpful for us because we can learn from this.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't. They didn't. None at all, because it was the same sort of setup. You know who learned from this? Was Javier Aguirre in Mallorca. Said, we're going to do exactly what Celta de Vigo did and see if they can break us down. We are going to be as difficult to break down as Celta de Vigo were. We're going to be pragmatic. We're going to put two strikers up there because I think you are the sort of team that is going to struggle against two strikers and two physical guys that are going to push your two center backs. And it worked for Mallorca. And once again, Barcelona unable to figure it out. So if there was a lesson to be learned against Celta de Vigo, they did not learn it. And now they pay for it against Mallorca.
Getafe was the same.
Yeah.
They dropped points at Getafe. And then they got the 3 points at Osasuna.
Yeah.
But it was Osasuna's, do you remember I went bananas about this? It was Osasuna's B team.
Not like you.
He basically rested, I think, like 9 players because they'd played in Europe, and it was too much for them. And he put the B team out, and it was the charge of the Light Brigade against Barcelona. It was like they were going forward, they were creating chances. This side are just, they're open. They are just open almost every game this year.